like you said, like not everyone goes to explore as we do. There are like a very small amount of people go and explore the unknown, go into the dark, into the chaos,
Yeah.
and like try to make order and structure inside it. And for
Agreed.
me, the way I see it, like most people are in the zone of comfort. Like, don't leave that circle. They like it. It's comfortable. Why would you not go into the chaos where you can get hurt and damaged and whatever can happen? So I see myself as that bridge. Like connecting these two. So I can say like, oh, like here's the bridge, here's the information, here's the knowledge. You can walk over it. It will be an easier trip for you. Join us. You can be in the chaos. You can walk over this and join us.
Hi, this is Brian Sykes. You know me from AI Explore, and we're launching the AI Creators Collective. I'm not going to say this morning or this evening because it depends on when you're watching, but we're actually on opposite ends of the spectrum this morning. This is evening for me and morning for our guest, Nejcs and Susec. I'm so excited to have you with us this time of day. But it's such a pleasure to get to engage with you in conversation. And I've got a series of questions, and I know that the nature of how we're going to do this thing is it's going to be just a free flow. But I would love for you to start off by, Nejcs, just giving us a quick introduction to yourself. Tell us a little bit about you, where you're from, what you're doing right now.
Oh yeah, I'm super excited for this. Thank you so much, Brian. I love conversations, especially with you, because they always lead into like deeper and more layered things. My name is Nejcs. I am from Slovenia, but I'm currently in Thailand. So I am on the opposite side of the world, even
Literally.
for myself. I explore AI. So more or less at the core, I'm a storyteller. I love stories. I love telling stories. I think everyone has stories to tell, personal stories, imaginary stories, whatever. And so do I.
Yeah.
And I think expressing those is a very beautiful and powerful thing, like self-expression. And I feel like that's why I started making stuff to express myself creatively, to say, oh, this is in my mind. I want everyone to see it. I want other people to relate with it, to connect with them. So I started with like videos and animations like 9 years ago now, probably. It was from like a very specific niche, which was shuffling cards, so like cardistry. So I made videos of card shuffling on Instagram just to start out. And then I kind of decided, I want to have my own deck of playing cards because I'm a personalized human being. So I made a Kickstarter for that, and that went super well. So that was kind of like my first thing I made, like a deck of playing cards, which I still have. And it reminds me, I made a thing, which is super nice because making things is a special feeling. After that, I just went deeper into video editing and motion graphics, compositing, VFX, basically into the more commercial side of things, where I work with different clients on like podcasts, interviews, branding videos, short films, basically anything that I found interesting, which kind of reflects my personality as well, that like I like to touch different things and new things, explore and be curious about what is out there, and then see, what I like, what is interesting, what can help me, what can help others, stuff like that. And that's how I eventually came to AI, because it was a new thing, and I was like, this sounds interesting. And that's why I just started like touching everything in the AI space and kind of landed on AI tools for visual communication, so like text to image primarily. I am currently working with a world building studio, where I'm implementing these tools into like the creative pipeline, and it's more or less goes from 2D to 3D. So I am kind of looking into the 3D space as well, and it's getting there. It's like soonish, to be honest. Like just like yesterday, I think I was reading papers on what's coming up, and it's super freaking exciting. So for me, I think ultimately why I do this is because I want to tell my stories and I want to do them at a high level. And I feel like with AI, I am able to do much, much more than I was before. So for me, like
Yes,
with After Effects, I made a lot of things. With AI, I make an enormous amount of things, which, yeah, is very exciting for me. So yeah, that's kind of a
that's
quick
really cool.
overview of where I am.
Yeah, I think there's something you pointed out there, and I remember you and I've had several conversations on this. Of both of us are kind of hands-on in regards to a little bit of everything. From I think you just showed me your pottery, first pottery cup, which is kind of cool. But doing things from making things out of wood, learning how to forge, all those kind of things, like that's stuff that I've always explored because I wanted to know how things work and wanted to figure out if I could do it myself. So I think
Yeah,
we've had conversations in that regard in the past. So that's really neat. Um,
yeah, for
so
sure.
tell me your creative process when using, your text art tools or anything that you're doing with AI right now. What is it that you do to kind of move you through the process?
So maybe I'll answer this with my own perspective,
Yeah,
but I think initially for me, how I approach things is I learn the tool. So for me, when I saw Midjourney like last year, like midsummer, whenever it was, like July or whatever, it was became more
right,
available. I My first thought was like, oh, this is amazing. This is a great tool. This is a great skill. And more or less over the next couple of months, I was exploring this tool in the dark, like we all were, because somebody has to
right.
start, and
That's
making
right.
resources, and then like those people make resources, like us, for example, and I was just building the skill more or less for a couple of months. I was just like building the skill. And then when I have the skill, I'm like, okay, so what do I actually like doing? And for me, that is stories. So I like to tell stories. So I start thinking, okay, how can I put this skill to use in my storytelling? And for me, like,
Yeah,
especially, I love animation. Animation is freaking amazing to me, and I love doing it.
yes.
And that's why I also work with a studio that does animated like shorts and stuff like that. And then I start thinking, okay, how can I apply this into this creative process? And I just more or less start analyzing, okay, this. So personally, I do a lot of things by myself. I have been a freelancer for a long time, so I have my own creative process for making
Yeah,
videos, which usually is like record stuff, make a voiceover, make B-roll, make animation, motion graphics, make sound
right.
effects, like whatever it is. And that was like one of the first things I did. I made like a short like animation, like minute and a half of a D&D story, of a Dungeons and Dragons story we played. Um,
Yeah,
and I just substituted the images with AI, and I substituted the voiceover with AI, and I did the basic animation in After Effects. So basically, I think this is extremely open. Like we are getting more towards a streamlined pipeline everywhere. At least I'm
yeah,
looking in that direction as well, to contributing. Okay, how can I streamline this pipeline for this studio, for
right.
example? But at the core, just like look at how you do things, look at how you like what is your creative process, and then just start substituting it. Like say, oh, could this be supported by AI? Oh, could AI help me do this? And that's kind of how I do it. So like with every project, I just take a moment and I think about the tools I have touched, which also is an advantage. If you touch a lot of tools, you have a lot at
Right.
your disposal.
Yes,
um,
agreed.
yeah, and then I just say, okay, for example, Midjourney can help me here. It can help me create this landscape image for the background. Oh, Stable Diffusion can help me here in creating the character or whatever. Oh, I can make
Right.
voiceover with like 11 Labs or UberDoc or whatever. And I just more or less start substituting every part of it, if that answers the question.
It does, definitely. I think what's interesting is you probably took that approach or a similar approach before AI came onto the scene, didn't you? More of a hands-on and let's explore it, and you utilize all the tools that you touched before coming into that space.
Yeah, I do. Like you said, I also like to touch things. I'm a very self-learning person. I was
Right.
listening to a podcast coincidentally like this week or last week on Huberman Lab with Rick Rubin,
Yeah.
and he was saying something about creativity, that he was lucky that he didn't know anything about music, because when he got into the space, he was playing around and exploring something new. He was able to make something of his own because he didn't have any kind of knowledge about it. And I feel that
Right.
that's kind of how I do things. Like I, in certain areas, I have knowledge, but I really enjoy exploring new ones, like stuff that is like unknown, or that is just like no
Right.
information. And then I come in and I make stuff my own. So that's kind of, yeah, why I also feel like I am good at exploring things because I've been doing it for a while, and AI is just like the latest thing that I like dropped into, and I looked around and said, oh, this is interesting. I can see myself there. I can do this. I can do that. I can do this.
Right.
Something like that.
I think that's very empowering. And I've had a lot of interns and people that I've brought in through, for projects and stuff. And with what I do for a living is I do branding and marketing. And, with branding, you're creating a logo. And the thing I found with a lot of creatives, especially young creatives who really haven't had that much time, they've kind of learned the software, is that's where they want to start. Let's open up Adobe Illustrator and start pulling out ideas for logos. And it's like, no, you're going to start on a piece of paper. I want you to take, a pen and paper, sketch ideas, and then from those, then you figure out which ones you like the best, and then try exploring those in Illustrator. When you start with the tool without any idea in mind, a lot of times you get locked into the process and procedure that the tool provides. It's like, let me try this filter, let me try this. You limit yourself, where when you start with a piece of paper, a blank slate, you really open it up to all possibilities. And I think you're right. The more that you've put your hands on before to see what's possible, the more opportunities, more things you have to pour into this blank canvas of ideas. I love that.
Yeah, that's true. That's also a nice thought. I agree.
Yeah.
And so just to kind of bounce off quickly. I agree about the whole like branding and everything. Like for me, like I said, it started from like self-expression, but also that is sometimes only for me, it is for my friends, it is for, I don't know, a group of people. So there is always a need for like a commercial application of skills,
Right.
So I do, steer off into that direction as well. I do try to like do both, even though like I'm super excited about expressing stories and everything, there still needs to be functionality. And that's why I look at like, applications of these tools into like existing systems and pipelines. Yeah. So
I agree. You've done some great explorations on your styles, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on maybe, but I like the approach that you take to your style prompting. And you did some really cool stuff related to your flat vector art stuff. That was really neat. And it opens up a lot of opportunities. Yeah, it creates a lot of opportunities for people who are in the graphic design field, logo developers, etc., to explore how to utilize AI for creating concept development for logos and things.
I've actually just made another one yesterday, and it's super. I love it. I fucking love it.
Awesome.
But yeah, continue.
That's awesome. So, as we're looking at this transition, we kind of touched on, of course, the graphic side of AI, and you talked about using 11 for the voiceover and some of the stuff that's happening in 3D. But how do you see the AI field and technology evolving in the future? And what role do you see for yourself playing in that evolution?
Oh, that's a great question. Oh, I have thoughts, my friend.
I figured so.
So, first of all, I think we all underestimate the exponential potential for learning AI has. I think
agreed.
And we all like think what's gonna happen and like predict, but I think we can't really say like this is exponential. Like this goes so quickly and so massively and so disruptively.
Right.
I can't say anything for like sure, I don't think anyone can. But for me, from what I observe, what I think where we're going is real-time creation, more or less. Everyone will have their thoughts visualized before their eyes more or less instantly. And then you will have a new thought, it will appear almost instantly. I think this is mostly like in metaverse, you'll say, oh, I'm seeing like a landscape filled with mountains and a flower bed, purple colors,
right.
whatever, and it will be there. It will be there for you, and either in 3D, even in 3D, and then you'll be like, oh no, I want to see something different, and it will like change instantly. I think that's where we're going. We have been moving towards this.
We're actually there. I've got a friend,
I agree.
And I can't tell you his name yet because I don't have permission to do so, but I can tell you that he has created a generative AI that's built on the back of Stable Diffusion and DALL-E, and he's got it set with voice to prompt instead of text to prompt, and it will in real time generate, and it processes at a speed that you can talk, and it's generating as you speak in live time, and it will manipulate. So you can make adjustments in real time and watch the transition occur. It's not released yet, but it's there. He's got it, and it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, so, there you go.
I feel like it's just crazy.
At one point, this will be just indistinguishable. It would just be like, perfect. Because like at the
Right.
moment, even like text to image, it is getting better, but I still think it's very early. Like this technology
Yeah.
is very early, and 3D is kind of like attempting. There are some attempts in it, but
Right.
that is still a while to go. So I do think like this is gonna happen quite quickly, even with like virtual production or like production stages. Like that has
Yeah.
been around for a while, and that's like real life rendering. You change the environment in real time. And with AI now, with
Right.
like text to image AI, you say, "Oh, I want to see a character." You see a character in like seconds, minutes. If it's
Right.
like if you have relaxed mode, it's minutes, but otherwise
Right.
seconds.
Yeah. I think the biggest challenge for 3D right now is when you're dealing with images or standard 2D images, there's such a plethora or large selection of images to train the models from. 3D, there's just a smaller set of things to work from. But I think there's an opportunity where colleges could be engaged in this process of let's build a larger repertoire of 3D models. And, you don't have to keep recreating a cut. That's a great start. This is a good tool of this is where we start with our 3D stuff. But I think the opportunity to explore as college students is create. Part of that creative process is then they get to dump those creative resources into the AI training platform that we then can work from as a depository. But yeah, I think this is going to be the ongoing effort of education is to continually build that supply of information on which the platforms are taught.
Yeah. So what I saw yesterday, like a few research papers I looked at, and what I saw is that 3D models are currently can be made from videos. So basically, you have a video of like a cat, for example, because we love
Right.
cats, we as we humans, and then it kind of just takes the cat from the video and makes a 3D model out of it, and also with the animation, so like it replicates the animations. And for like animation rigging as well, if you like upload a model with like the point cloud, it will
Yeah.
rig the model for you and to like do the movements for you. So I think like as far as like text to 3D goes, yes, that is also like viable, but I think the other side will be quicker. I think the other side will be more useful, where you like
Yeah.
record something and you just like convert it into 3D. I think that is much more doable and quicker. Even
Right.
there's already like deep, I think it's called deep motion, where you upload a video and then it
Mhm.
converts it into a 3D animation of an avatar. So all of these things are happening. Like all of these things are here. Like you can do so much stuff. Like literally, if you
Right.
there are so many like blog posts with all of these resources that you can't go through them all. You literally can't go through them all because there is so much out there. And
Yeah.
I agree about the whole like education and like keep on building, but I also think this is going so freaking fast, and that's very scary. I think that is very scary for us humans because we don't have the same capacity as AI does. We cannot process
Right.
as much as AI can. So I think about
Right.
that as a lot of how do we actually do this in a kind of like, considerate and compassionate way to humans everywhere,
Right.
without just like, because I think our human nature is that we build something and then just like say, oh, okay, go, release it out and
Right.
go. And then like after a while with this like exploring and learning what does it do, like what can we do with it, we reflect and say, oh, like it would be better if you did like this, like this, like this, like this.
Yeah.
So I do think like some consideration or just like I think a proper conversation on this needs to happen, and that's why like this I appreciate this a lot because like if people get engaged in conversations, I think we will start building in a more like socially responsible way. Yeah.
I agree with that. I think that's a very viable option. It doesn't always have to be about how fast we can get to something, but
Mm.
what's the best steps moving forward into the space. So I think that's a really valid point. So question then, what challenges have you faced when working with the AI tools and how have you overcome them?
I would say the same challenges as with any other tool. It doesn't do what I want it to
Of
do.
course.
I mean, it's the same with like After Effects. Like sometimes it just doesn't do what I want it to do, and I'm like, why don't
Yeah.
you help me? Why are you not working with me? So at that point, I'm more or less like, okay, just a different approach. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, this is not working. Gotta find a different way.
Right.
Which again, which goes again into the whole exploration and curiosity aspect of things of, okay, I'm just going to learn something new, like figure out something new, how I can do this. And there are always like going to be limitations with things,
Right.
with like software, with whatever you're using. And you have to get creative on how to get around them. And I think that's also part of like creative process of like, okay, like putting limitations on yourself. I think that's very good for me, or for at least for me personally. I enjoy that,
Yeah.
of putting like a limitation on myself and say, okay, I cannot do this, but I still need to finish the whole idea that I have. It forces you to like
Right.
stretch your brain a bit more. So yeah,
Yeah.
usually just it doesn't do what I want it to do, so I have to find a different way to do it. I do that by either like just trying a different technique, like a prompt structure or a prompt engineering technique, or I
Right.
just go to a different software like Stable Diffusion or something. Or in
Yeah.
between, I mostly use like Midjourney and Stable Diffusion for most of my work at the moment. So I kind
Okay.
of like exchange between these two.
Right. I'm wondering about something because so we have a lot of similarities, and I'm wondering my approach in the past with a lot of clients and is I set myself a benchmark goal that's beyond my capabilities when I agree to do them. Because I want to push myself every time, and I know that there's got to be a way to make it happen. So this is how I learned how to do web development. This is how I learned how to do stuff in Flash and Director years ago. Is because I'm like, okay, I read about this technology, I've seen it, I can definitely do that. So sure, I can do a project for you in that. And I would jump in feet first and spend several weeks learning how to do it, and then create this thing for the client. You're laughing, so it must be something you relate to.
Oh, 100%. That's exactly how I do things. That's exactly how I do things. Like more
That's
or less
awesome.
just like head first, eyes closed, don't look,
Right,
and
right.
then push and burn and stretch as much as I can to figure it out. Because but again, like before I do this, I do need an overview. Like I don't do things that I have absolutely no idea about. But like
Oh,
if I
certainly.
have like
Right.
an overview of the landscape, if I have an overview of like what is before me, I will say, okay,
Right.
this does that. Like I can do this with that, for example.
Right.
I bet I can figure this out. If I do this for like I don't know a week or 2 weeks, I can figure it out. I'm pretty confident in
Yeah.
that. So it's more about that, like figuring stuff out for me. And yeah, I completely agree. I like to push and challenge myself a lot, and that is kind of a detriment sometimes as well, because I started the biggest idea possible. I started like, okay, let's build the world. I have
Right.
this idea in mind. Let's build the whole world. And then
Yeah.
it's kind of like good to break it down into smaller pieces. Oh, I actually just need to build one building or like one landscape and then a character, and you go step by step, and even that step like takes a long. It has like multiple steps beneath it. But I usually start
Right.
at like the biggest idea, and I often have to like pull myself back and say, okay, I cannot do so many big ideas. I need to have like smaller projects. I need to do like smaller things.
Agreed.
But
Agreed.
yeah,
I've had learned the hard way that first, I don't need to create the world. Also, I need to find out specifically what it is the client is asking for, because the client's like, okay, I just need a logo. Okay, great. I'm going to build you a logo, and I'll have. This is my approach in the old days of young energetic Brian. Is let me redesign your entire everything, and I'll have the best presentation of finished products you've ever seen. And like all they wanted was a logo. So I've learned to scale back and take a more diplomatic approach to listening to the client and understanding what they're after, and then building things that are more practical. But that comes with the I don't know that it's ADHD, but there's definitely something going on with
yeah,
a high level of. I love that kind of challenge. So I have to find outlets for myself that step away from client projects, so I can work on client projects based off of solving a specific need. The creative exploration, I can do that on my own, and just kind of have fun. That's what AI really opens up for me.
yeah. And a few things. First of all, since we are very similar in this, if I am in a position you are at the moment when I am your
Yeah,
age, fantastic. That would be fucking amazing, because I feel like you are in a very nice place in life, just of like having a balance of fun and also like advancement and challenges. I feel like that
yeah,
is very important, because for me, like it starts the same way. Like for me, fun and playing around and excitement is where it starts. Whatever I do is like, oh, this is fun,
Yes,
this is exciting, I want to do this. So I
of
start
course.
doing it, and then I keep digging, and then after a while it becomes work. So I think like self-expression, that's where the fun is, like exploration
Yeah,
of myself. Oh, like this helps me express myself, that is very fun, it's fulfilling, it's like contentment. But then when it
right.
comes to like, oh, like let's apply this to business and like, some processes, it becomes work. And so I think at that point it's just like, oh, I just need to find a new thing that is fun, and I will keep this one going. But I cannot dream the business aspect as big, or like, personally, I don't. Maybe I do. Maybe I just want all of the things at the same time, just as huge as possible. So I agree
Of
about
course.
like scaling back. I did like experience this like over the last couple of weeks, because I have a lot going on, because I want everything. Everything is so exciting, but
Right.
that cannot happen because there's 24 hours per day, and I also need to sleep. So prioritization and scaling back, that is important.
Well, like I did it today. In the middle of the afternoon, I'm working on a client project, and in the middle of the project work, uh, I started thinking on, I wonder what Spider-Man in Star Wars would look like. It's like, okay, this is ridiculous, but it just came to me. So I decided, okay, I'm going to go try this out. And so I spent 15 minutes playing in AI, throwing Spider-Man into Star Wars and giving him a lightsaber. And I was like, okay, that's actually cool. And then my brain wants to start running down all these other rabbit trails, and I have to bring it back in.
Yeah.
I was like, I've already put the time and energy. Let's put this out as a post and kind of let everybody know it's okay. It's actually good for us to let our creativity run a little bit, because otherwise, for me, it's kind of like that hamster wheel. It's just going to keep going, and I need to kind of burn off a little bit so that I can function, keep myself straight.
Yeah, like I totally agree. I feel like fun and play, like playing around as a child, that is incredible. I feel like everyone should do
Yeah,
that in their lives. I think it is vital for a happy existence in life, that you know how to
right.
play around and have fun. I think that is very important, and I like to do that as well. And AI allows a lot of that. So yeah,
Agreed.
I mean, recently it has become more of a work, because I just like do client work. I do like a brief, I do like a project, which still are fun. Like a lot of the projects I
Right,
work on are fun because they are stories, and I love stories, and just like visualizing those stories and making concepts and making worlds and mood boards and everything.
right.
And after a while, it still like becomes more like, I have to do it, and not I want to do it. So I think at that point I just do something that I want to do, and that's usually like make a new story, like my own story. So I like actually like write a story. Like I just decide, oh, I have this world I want to have. I will write a story, and I start writing a story, and it usually just comes from like that feeling of
Nice.
inspiration of like, oh, like damn, I have to make something. I have to make
Right, right.
something,
Yeah,
And
it's got
it
to
was the
come
same.
out.
Yeah, exactly. And it was the same yesterday. I was like, oh, I gotta make something. Like there is something in the air, I have to like push something out. So I like just went onto like Mid Journey, and I made like a new style for this story as well, because I'm like
Right,
writing the story. I think it will be like a book or like a comic book or animation. I don't freaking know yet, but I know it's a story and I'm writing it.
right. Very
And
cool.
more or less like I have like these different characters, and I just said, okay, I'm just gonna make the first scene for the first character. I made the style for it, made like the first few frames, and it was a fun time. So there is,
Nice.
I don't know, it's freaking great to have AI that you can just get into and like push a world out or push a character out.
Right, right. That's fantastic. It's fun because I think the whole creative process, it's invigorating. I'd never get away from doing something creative and then feel tired. It's fueling, like I'm drinking something super caffeinated and over sugared, because it's
Yeah,
it's stimulating and exciting, and then all these new ideas stimulate from that or come from that. Um,
yeah.
so you've got a lot of cool stuff that you've done. I've actually bought several of the things that you put out there because they're awesome.
Oh, thank you. I
But
appreciate that.
yeah, can you share with us some of your favorite text art creations, and then what kind of inspired you to create them? And of course, I know it's going to be based off a story, but what are some of the favorite things that you've created?
Oh, damn, that's a great question. And also, I don't think I have an answer. First of all, like with AI, I have made so much. I feel like the more imagination a person has, the more powerful this tool is. And I feel like I have a very strong imagination. Like I
Yeah,
have, since my childhood, I have traveled to worlds. Just like I would get lost, I would just like dream a bit. And I feel that is very amplified with AI, that I can
Yeah.
just dream and go
Right. Right.
places. Because like even like when I walk around, like in nature or whatever, I look at the stuff. So I find a lot of inspiration for like my stuff in real life. So like walking around in nature and talking with people, I feel like that is where I actually like find fuel for my stories and for my
Okay.
creations.
Yeah.
I'm not as big on like looking at stuff of like what other people are doing, which I still do, and it is amazing what other people are doing. But for me, it's
Right.
always like that part of like exploration. I will start from like myself, and then I will like go somewhere where a journey where I will see something, and that will inspire me to like put everything together. It will connect everything together. So I
Right.
think that is kind of the exploration part and the fun part, where I just like start from nothing for myself, and then I walk around and go on a journey, and then I find something, and then the journey is complete, and I have like a story. But yeah, like
Right.
for like client work, definitely look at other people, what they are doing, get inspired by them,
Yeah.
because kind of like kickstart it quickly. So my favorite creation, mm, I think just the styles that are making are very fun for me, just because
Yeah.
they kind of create an atmosphere and a world for me. So like each style, I feel like is a different world that I can just like walk through, because I can change the subject of like the template that I have, and
Right.
I can just travel through the world basically. So it is in a way just like a world inside a prompt. So for
Right.
example, I made like this template yesterday, or like I can use one that you already seen, like the neon one. If you
Mhm.
remember, like the neon one,
Yeah.
it's just like a world of neon colors, of like neon lines, and you type in, oh, I want to see a room, I want to see a character, I want to see a scene, and you just travel through the world, and you see kind of like a story. You can quickly make a story out of it. It's maybe similar
Nice.
to like how I walk through nature. You can just like walk through the
Right.
world, and then you can see something, oh, like this is interesting, and you can like put it together. So I think it's more of a holistic approach for me. It's not like a one specific, creation of like, oh, this image or like this art is something I really, really love. Although some of them are like, when I make something and it's like, I'm like, oh damn, this looks really, really good. This is
Yeah.
freaking good. And I have those moments, but like holistically, I feel it more like worlds. Like the worlds I build are what I'm most happy and most proud of. Something like that. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I really
If that
like
answers your
your
question,
structured
I'm not
prompts.
sure.
It does. It does. It really does. And I like the structured prompts that you've created because your style is it's very much yours, and that's what I think is so cool about it. And a lot of people are beginning to copy that style because you've been very prolific in letting people have access to it. But I love what you're
Everything.
doing in that. Yeah, and I think that's the beauty is because we're not tying down to I'm going to create a specific prompt and this is the only thing I'm doing. We're constantly like, here's what I just created. I'm going over here to keep going for the next thing. And I'm happy to pass along what I'm figuring out as I go along because I've got more to figure out. So I think that's a
Yeah.
neat creative process, and it keeps other people moving through this space as well. Because not everybody's an explorer like you and I might be. Others are kind of they want it to be handed to them a little more carefully,
Yeah. And
and
just
I don't
to
mind getting dirty in it.
yeah, and just to bounce off of this, like before you ask where do I see myself in this space, like going forward in the
Yeah,
future? Exactly here. Like you said, like not everyone goes to explore as we do. There are like a very small amount of people go and explore the unknown, go into the dark, into the chaos,
yeah,
and like try to make order and structure inside it. And for
agreed.
me, the way I see it, like most people are in the zone of comfort, like don't leave that circle. They like it. It's
Right,
comfortable. Why would you not go into the chaos where you can get hurt and damaged and whatever can happen? So I see
right,
myself as that bridge, like connecting these two. So I can say like, oh, like here's the bridge, here's the information, here's the knowledge. You can walk over it. It will be an easier trip for you. Join us. You can be in
right.
the chaos. You can walk over this and join us. And that's why I just share everything. Like I literally
Great.
I try to not put paywalls on anything, because I think like information and knowledge should be free, because learning is amazing. If people learn, that is amazing. Like education for me is like extremely important, because if you have information and knowledge, you can make different decisions than you would if you didn't have them. So I think that is very
Right.
important. So I do try to like give away as much for free as I can, but also like it takes work, it takes time. So I do make like some of the products like paid. For example, like a video course that took me quite a while to make, so I did put
Right.
like a price on it, and as well as like another guide. But otherwise, like, yeah, absolutely, like every day, like whatever I see, like you have it, make it your own.
Right.
And also, like, I always say, like, make it your own, because this is not a one solution for everything. It doesn't work for everyone.
Right.
And even like the,
Right.
the AI, it is very biased. I think like each user gets a different result from the same prompt. So even
Yeah.
if like I get this result, you might not get the same result. So this is still like experimental phase. Make it your
Right.
own. That's kind of like what I
Agreed.
always say.
Agreed. I'll tell you one thing I fault in regards to my approach with the AI Explorer. So literally, I give everything away the first time. And then I will take the time to put that together into a collection. I'll round it out and make it more polished and make it into a presentation, and then that becomes a book.
Yeah,
And I'm
that's a great
and I'm
approach. That's a great approach. And I
yeah.
did a
So
similar thing. Yeah, continue.
yeah, and I
Sorry.
think that approach allows us. It allows there to be a reciprocity from people who've appreciated the effort that you put into something. I think there's people who they want to support that I keep putting things out there, and the same like for you. I think there's a value there where they can feel like, how can I somehow pay this forward for what you're doing for my benefit? So this is one of the things I really think it's valuable for me. It's a way to justify the time and energy I put into this thing, is to turn around and also have a system that can recoup some of that time and energy through books. But it also collects all that information into nice little packages that, I love the fact, reaching over here, but that I've got these books that I put together. That to
Nice.
me is so exciting. I love that.
Yeah, dude. Yeah,
So
dude.
for this,
Yeah, continue. Sorry. Go.
I was just going to say, it's just nice to be able to say, I made a mark in history, not just on a thing that's going to disappear, if LinkedIn ever goes down, but literally there's a physical book that's been made, a digital copy of that book's available. So I've been able to put that energy together and create something. And literally at this moment, I'm creating 3 books at the same time, of which you're one of those. The collaboration that we're doing. So, this is exciting to me, and I want to rope as many other creatives in this space to let them be a part of this thing.
Yeah, for sure. I totally get it. And I appreciate a lot for you sharing this space with our people. Like, I feel the same about this. And also, like I said before this call, like, extremely impressive how you're able to do 3 books at the same time. I feel like that's the whole, like, prioritization and scaling back of things, because I go like big on every project, and that's why I can't do as many. But like, with this prioritization, a work in progress, a skill work in progress. But
Yeah.
I fully agree about like the whole excitement of having this thing exist. Like, I felt the same when I made like my deck of playing cards, and that's like a very mundane thing. It's a deck of playing cards. Like, not many people even have it in their everyday life.
Right.
But like, I had it, I made it, it exists. And I was like, oh my god, I made this thing. This is freaking incredible. So I
Right.
feel like the same excitement of like, oh, like I made this thing. This is incredible. And absolutely, I agree about what you said about creating these books and everything as well, because I share everything for free. Like, I would say most of the things that are in the guides and the courses that I make are, you can find for free, but it will take you time to find them and collect them. And
Right.
I did the time to collect them for you. So, that's why there is a price for it. Like you
Yeah.
say, it's just a collection. So if you don't want to spend a lot of time searching for these resources, here's an easier way. It's streamlined. It is like direction. It's, you can go through it
Agreed.
easier. And I agree about the whole thing of people supporting. Like, I made like yesterday, I don't know, like, okay, I made it a week ago, but yesterday I posted of like the storyboard essentials. So I made like a new
Yeah.
PDF for like, different camera angles and lightings and facial expressions that you can use to like make different frames for storyboards. And it's free.
Right.
I made it for free on Gumroad. But a lot of people still put something in it. They put like, a few euros or dollars or whatever is the currency
Yeah.
in there, because they felt like, oh, this is useful, I want to support. So, it's really nice. It's really nice when people see,
Yeah.
okay, somebody is putting an effort to make my life easier. That feels nice when that is recognized.
Right. My wife uses the term, we're helping people fast track knowledge. and
Yes.
there's a value for that. So,
Yeah,
the
I agree.
fact that I can do the daily training, that's for my benefit to help other people. The time to collect it and put it into a book that they can now, have access to and have a collection of 10 lessons that's going to walk them through some basics. That's a value add that I would like for them to be able to pay to fast track that knowledge,
Yeah.
because there was time and energy involved in making that happen. So I love that.
100%.
Go
And
ahead.
I think there are like two differences. So like for us, like self-learners, we have talked about how we learn. We go
Right.
in head first, eyes closed, and just
Yes.
like run around, like try to make sense of the thing. And
Right.
that takes a lot of effort and time. Like that is not even sometimes pleasant because it is unknown and you're like, oh my god, what is happening? Like, what do I do? Like, I have to like
Right.
lift a whole mountain like to figure this thing out almost at times. And
Right.
some people don't want to do that. Some people actually want to have the knowledge handed to them. They want to fast track their learning, like you said, and that's the value I see in this as well. Yeah, because you
Yeah.
can
I
like
mean,
you can learn for yourself. Like you can do it, everyone can do it. You can go and search the
right.
resources, and there are many more resources now. Even on YouTube you have a lot of videos and everything. But if you
Right.
have like an instructor who tells you, okay, this is the first lesson, this is the second lesson, and then even sees how
Right.
you are learning and what lesson is the next, can give you like a directed like course, I think that speeds it up a lot. So it depends. Yeah,
I
how
do too.
do you like to learn?
Right. I think you fit based off the systems. And you're right. There's different approaches to how people approach things. I've been in education or teaching for over 20 years now. And you learn adults have different approaches. And, some, when I used to be an Adobe certified instructor, you would have some guys and girls who would come into the class and they're afraid to do anything because they're going to break it. And I'm like, literally, you're not going to mess up the computer. It's going to be okay. And then you have some that, it's just different personalities and how they approach learning. Some get completely frustrated and are ready to throw things around the room because it doesn't work the way they thought it was going to work. So it's just fascinating to engage in the creative endeavors of education. It's fascinating. I enjoy it, even though it can be a
Yeah.
rascally endeavor.
Yeah.
So can you talk about any innovative or unique uses of AI that you've explored? And you kind of talked about your storytelling stuff. You're talking about some video in 3D. But what are something that's innovative or unique that maybe is not on the front lines yet?
So I can't. So more or less because I share everything that I do, I normalize a lot of the things. So I'm not sure
Yeah,
like what is out there, what isn't. So I
right,
can just say about like the uses I find for this. First of all, the biggest use for text to image AI at the moment, in my opinion, is like the real time render capability it has, because you
yeah,
can in real time brainstorm and concept. So if you are within a team, if you work in a team of like creatives, you will get together on a call on Discord or whatever you use. But like if you use Midjourney,
right,
just you do Discord, you have the channel for creation, and then you say, okay, we have a world that is made out of gems. It has these colors. It has like yellow and
right,
blue colors, and you just start typing in, and it starts like feeding you images. And then you, in real time, make decisions. Oh, I like this. I don't like this. I like this. I like this. And then you can go like online, and you find references if you like, maybe of real architecture, maybe of like other like artists or whatever. And you can use
right,
those images as image prompts and feed them into your own like creations. So like you can
right.
in real time build out the world. And this is what I'm saying, we are moving towards a real time creation society. So I think the speed and efficiency and like the scale of creation is the biggest advantage of AI at the moment. You can create so
Yeah,
much so quickly that it's absolutely incredible. So I think for these like concepting, brainstorming, and eventually like these turn into mood boards. So if you like make the selection out of, so I can just like describe the quick process I have for like
sure.
some of the projects. Basically, we go through like the concepting stage where we brainstorm together. I get on a call with the team, with team members, and we just like spend an hour and a half. It depends on how much you want, I guess, and like make
Right,
images. I just make images, and they feed me like information like this. Maybe we want a different shot. Maybe we want a different angle, whatever. And then we make
right,
a selection, and there's a mood board. Basically, you have a mood board for your world, and then you can start building off of that. And for this next stage is like either like character creation or like proper asset creation. I think the
right,
initial stage can be done by AI. So like at least like 50% can be supported by AI. I think you still
Yeah.
need to like draw the finer details in for the consistency's sake as well. You will need to draw the finer details in if you're like making
Yeah.
a drawing or whatever. But like making the composition, so I made like a prompt as well for line art. So if you make storyboards, those are usually made with line art, it's just like simple
Right.
lines that like make the composition, make the elements, make the shapes.
Yeah.
And on top of that, it's very easy to draw something in because it's not a lot of information, and it's easy to erase something out because it's not a lot of information. So I
Right.
think like you can do the initial heavy lifting, like 50% of the initial heavy lifting can be done by AI, and then you just like finish up. And also,
Yeah.
like, I think there is a big freedom in how you use it. This is just my example because I asked, okay, what don't you like to do? I asked like the
Yep.
team at the studio, like, what don't you like to do? And they said, oh, like drawing every frame is very time consuming. So I thought, okay,
Right.
so what if you don't draw every frame? What if you just do the thing you like? And they said, I like to color, so I like to do the coloring and the contrast and everything. I said, okay,
Yeah.
line art it is. I will make the initial line art for you. You will finish up. And I think this like immensely speeds up everything.
Right.
So from like a 2D workflow, I think AI is already very beneficial. I think it is very
Well, certainly.
beneficial. Yeah, so for me, like most of the things I do is like character creation, world building. So just like world building, in a sense,
Right.
world building, which consists of like character creations, landscapes, assets, maybe styles, so stuff like that. So I
Yeah.
use AI to like generate a lot of variety, to generate a lot of options, and then just to do the initial outline, and then like the artists, like the 2D artists, like finish up with their own style with their own work on top of it.
Right.
Yeah. As far as 3D, also like just like as visualization, a simple visualization of like, oh, like for example, even when like
Yeah.
directors come into the studio and say like, oh, we are making a movie, we want to see these scenes, we want to see these different scenes in like a
Right.
cinematic style. That's very very useful if you have AI,
Yes.
AI,
Certainly.
because you can just like make different frames, you can make different shots, and you can make a lot of choices between them. You can make like a variety. So for concepting, absolutely incredible. For the
Agreed.
3D side, I have I really want so most of my focus is on world building and animation. So like these two areas, I love these two areas, and that's why I try to look for applications in these two areas. And for
Right.
3D, it is like the actual 3D AI is okay. There are some that are very like supportive and supplementary, but none
Right.
are like properly game changing yet.
Right.
Because text to image, I think it is game changing for like brainstorming and concepting, like I said. And I
Yeah.
use the same like text to image for like texture work. So like for making textures with 3D team. So like I talk, okay, what
Yeah.
kind of textures are we doing here? What do we need? What do you need? And I will just like drop a few textures out, and that's it. I am looking into like the animation rigs I said, and how like motion could be captured by AI and 3D models as well. So that
Yeah.
is like on my like radar, more or less. Like I'm paying attention to other research papers I mentioned earlier, and I will see how
Right.
they develop. But yeah, at the moment, I think like 2D, like the text to image is the most useful for me personally. Yeah, and that can be applied, like the same concept thing can be applied to 3D. So like once you finish the 2D, the 3D already has a character, it knows how it looks like. So it's also much easier
Right.
to model it out and animate it and everything.
I've not
Also,
explored it
just
yet, but just on what you were just talking about, I want to send you a link later on where a guy walked through the process of creating his character inside of Midjourney, and then he was able to set it up and build a rig, and then he's using an iPhone app to capture motion and then tie it to his rig, so he can create some really
yes,
cool 3D stuff. So
yeah,
sorry to
yeah, I
interrupt, but I
know.
just wanted to get that out there because
Yeah,
that's cool.
yeah, I get it. I fully know. Like the app is called Move AI. I have it as
Yeah.
well, and it's
Okay.
it's amazing. Yeah, it definitely like there is a lot for animation as well, just from like motion capture. And honestly, these
Right.
tools have been available for a while, not just recently. Like even for
Right.
like Nvidia has a lot of stuff. Like they have voice to motion, I think. So basically you have a 3D model of a face, and then you record your voice, and AI will capture the inflections and the expressions of your speech, so like the way you will talk, the 3D model will just like mimic it, so it will not be like flat, but it will actually have expressions, and like the muscles in the face will like contract and move around, so a lot
Very
of these
cool.
tools have already been available, but like not a lot of people know about them because you still need the rest. There needs to be the rest of the team that you are able to use these, because you can't like make the whole animation by yourself or the game by yourself, you need a lot of people. But I do think like AI is giving individual freedom, so a lot more people can do this by themselves. And that's also how I approach this. I said, okay, I want to make an animation of my D&D story, and I made it, and AI has helped me a lot with that.
Nice.
Yeah, I was about to say that like last week, there an extension for Stable Diffusion came out called ControlNet, which is freaking amazing. It basically transcribes, I guess, the pose from the image. So like if you have a character that is tracking a specific pose, you can choose a few options. You can either choose a depth map, so it will create a depth map of that pose, or you can use like an open pose, like lines, so it will just be like lines, or like a scribble, just like an outline, a scribble outline, and then it will actually retain the pose. So whatever you prompt on top of it, it will be in that pose. And now I'm just thinking, oh, this is freaking incredible. Like if I can have a pose selected, and you can actually select the pose. There's another extension where you can like make the stick man into like a pose you want. So you can select the pose you want. And if I can put my existing art, my existing character on top of this, I mean, that's freaking incredible. I can just make really whatever pose I want from the character, That's insane. So that's what I've been like working on this week, of figuring out how I can put existing characters on top of this, or just how I can make this workflow. Because at the moment, you prompt the image onto the pose, so you need to like prompt the image inside Stable Diffusion onto the pose, and then you can still like retain the consistency in character, but it will be made from a prompt, not from like a drawing, which still, it's incredible.
That's really cool. I'm excited to see when you start releasing your 3D animations, because
oh my god, like I've already like the only like kind of like blockage was yesterday. Like I said, yesterday I did a lot of research. I don't know, it was just that kind of a day when I thought maybe the inspiration part of, I have to like make something. What can I make? Let's look at what can I make that I haven't made before. So I like looked at stuff, and I already saw like that deep motion, and the deep motion is already like viable. Like the only thing that I need to do is record myself, and that's where it stopped because I'm lazy and I didn't want to like act out the scene. I didn't want to do something, but I think I definitely will like use it, and even for like some emotes, like oh my god, you can do so much already. Like I think people really underestimate how much you can already do. Like if you record yourself, you can turn yourself into an avatar easily. You can make yourself into a photorealistic version of yourself online, and it will talk with you with your speech and everything. We are already kind of in the metaverse, it's happening. Like we are there, and this is not the future. This is not science fiction. It's reality. Like we live in a digital and virtual reality.
It's totally fascinating, because every day I'm finding new things that are happening in the AI space that I did not even know existed. And every time I think, well, that would be neat, within a few days, I'm going to find something that's actually doing the thing I thought would be kind of cool. So,
and I think
keeps me on my toes.
And I think this is again like the prioritization and scaling back, because I also can't do all of this, so I more or less like have to make a selection of which tools I want, and that's why I usually just look for like world building and animation. What is useful for me in this space? What can I use in this space? So that's kind of my approach to this as well.
That's so cool. So how do you balance the technical aspects of using text art tools with the creative aspects of producing artwork?
That's also a great question. I think so. For me, I am, let's say, a lazy person, or more or less, I like to find ways to make my life easier. If I want to make something, I will look for a way to make it easy on myself to make that thing. It was similar with After Effects. I started by making drawings. So like by drawing every frame, and that was my animation. And then I started to think, that takes a lot of time, and I want to make a lot of stuff. This does not work. I cannot make a lot of stuff if it takes a lot of time. So if I want to make a lot of stuff, I need to find a way to make it quicker and easier
faster.
for me. So I started using effects, and I started using expressions, and just making like procedural animation, And I think with AI, this is just another level. It is a higher level of automation. And that's why I can make stuff quicker and make more of it. And it's more about, you will always need to have some knowledge. You will need to have some skill in some software, and you can do any of them you want. Like you can use pen and paper and make an animation. You can use After Effects with the procedural effects, and you can make an animation. You can not quite yet use AI to make an animation, but in a way you can. I mean, you can. You can use the forum. You can use You can use like the 3D avatars. You can use AI to make animation. It's more about how powerful these are, like one of these is more powerful than the other. They're not better or worse. It's just more powerful, I think, or more different output, I guess. It's just a different output. So I think that's how I look at it, of like, what will make my life the easiest? So if I learn this skill, how easy my life will be, like how much will I be able to make and how much will I be able to express. And that's why with AI, when I saw this text to image, my mind was just like, for a moment, just like silence and blank. And then it clicked, like I was like, oh shit, this is incredible. I can do all these things. And I feel like for the first like week or 2 weeks, when I was like deep into text to image, I was like, oh damn, like, I was not able to, like, I had to properly reframe my mindset to understand, okay, this is possible now. This is possible. I can do this, because so many things opened up. And that's how I kind of like see it. I will learn something that will have the most benefits for me and my expression and my creativity, but you always need to know how to use software. Like, we are not even in the future with the real-time world building that we talked about. I still think you will need to understand how it works and how to communicate it, or you will have to know something on how to use it, because this, like Midjourney, for example, you do type words into a box and that's it. You write text into a box and that's it. At the basic level, you can do that. But if you want to like express yourself a bit more controlled and refined and detailed, you're going to have to understand how prompts work, and you have to understand how to engineer them and stuff like that, So you will always have to have a certain level of skills in the tools you have.
Agreed.
And it's just like, which ones will you choose? That's up to you, and then comes like the creative part, and I think that's the fun part. So like, more or less, but it's also like, it also like fuels it, because now so many things are possible. So I just start dreaming bigger and bigger, which again goes back to my ever-feeding greed for creating big things, So I think it's more about being realistic and balancing out of, okay, I can make this in this time span. I can make this type of project. I can build a world in, I don't know, a week or 2 weeks. That's how I kind of balance it. I feel like first I need the skills to do it, and then I can just build things. But the way I do things is I try to combine them both. So I build things while simultaneously building the skills. So I make for example, I make a personal project for myself, or a client project. Like you said, like they have like, you like overreach. You say, oh yes, I can like make a world. I can make like a whole like rounded world with landscapes, architecture, characters. I will make all of it, and then you kind of push yourself and learn the skills necessary to make this thing, And at the end of it, you have learned something new. You also made a product, which is pretty cool, you can show it to other people, say, hey, I made this. And you also have a reference for like future products that are similar to this, or like projects that are similar to this, So that's kind of how I approach it. Learn by doing.
Agreed.
Try to combine both. But at some point, I think this becomes more of a work than a creative process, just because at a certain point your skills are at a level that you don't challenge yourself with the same project anymore. So you need to have a bigger project to challenge yourself again.
Agreed.
And at that point you kind of develop new skills and the creativity starts going again because you have a new project that is bigger, it's something you haven't done yet, and that's exciting, and you build a new skill,
Right.
and then you just kind of keep on going. Yeah, that's kind of my thought about this.
The funny thing is, what you're describing, I very much relate to, but I don't know that all the world approaches things like this.
I know, and
But
yeah,
I
I
like
would
this.
say I would say not. I would say not many people approach it like this, or at least I would say like even among us explorers, I'm not sure if everyone approaches it like we do. I would say
Right.
maybe, but I still feel like there are differences. I feel like some people, I would say a lot of people like more structure than
Yeah.
I do. Like I am okay not having a structure. I'm okay like being in the chaos. I don't mind. I will find my way out.
Same.
I will figure it out.
Right.
That's okay. Um, and I think a lot of people like to have everything in place before they attempt something. So they like do
Agreed.
the course. They do the course. They learn their skill, and they say, okay, time for the project. For me, how I
Right.
do it is like, okay, this is the project. This is what I'm doing. What do I need? What do
Exactly.
I need to make this happen? And then I just start collecting things and making, a structure and a plan of how I'm gonna make this happen.
Right. I think that's exactly my approach, and it's been my approach for 20 some years. So, like, it's actually fueled a lot of creative opportunities. I've learned a tremendous amount of stuff in the process, and I can actually look at individual projects and remember the thing that I figured
What
out
did
in
I
order to make
learn?
that work.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love
yeah,
that
for sure. Yeah, I
because
agree. I
there's
agree
markers.
100%. Yeah, I agree 100%. And yeah, I have so many thoughts on this, and I think like that's the beauty of building in public as well, because like everything I do, I
Yeah.
post it as well, and everyone can follow this process, And someone
Right.
who is maybe like a step or two steps or three steps behind in their learning process will be able to see on a real like example or use case how I made this happen. Like every step will be
Right.
documented because I'm documenting it for myself as well. Well, okay,
That's
I
right.
made it like this. This was my takeaway. It's kind of like it's like learning in school. They give you
Yeah.
like a presentation, they give you information, and you write it down into your notebook. So you can remember it later, or that you
Right.
just like I think just writing stuff down already imprints them deeper into your memory than just like thinking them out loud. I think like putting
Agreed.
thoughts into words is extremely powerful learning tool, and
Agreed.
I think this is a part of it. Like if I make a post on LinkedIn, oh, like I made this. For example, today I made post on ControlNet. Exactly, I posted like,
Yeah.
okay, you can make a def mat, you can make a scribble, you can retain the post, and I made posted a few images with it.
Right.
And I think like, okay, this is imprinted. I know what this does now. I know what ControlNet does now. And like for other people, they can also read it. They will know what ControlNet does. So it's
Right.
kind of like a notebook in a way, or just like a diary, like you said, that you made a daily post, just like diary to journal. I think I approach it in a very similar way as well. Just like I put my thoughts out there. Although I do like to be strategic as well. Sometimes I just post something that I know people are interested in or like want to know.
Right.
But sometimes I'm just like, I will post something that is just for me, that is my expression more or less. It comes back to the expression,
Right.
and oftentimes that's learning.
Yeah, of course. One of the things I have in the beginning, I'll actually just pull it over here. So I was putting this and sharing it with everybody as the books were being produced, like to get the most from the books. And I have 4 things like read it, do it, share it, and explain it. And the explain it to me is crucial for education.
Yes.
If you take the information that you've gone through and figured out, and then you have to tell someone else how to do that, you're having to think through the process and use your own words to describe it. And something in that process of explaining helps people to understand it and makes it stick. And this is something that, it's almost a selfish endeavor. As I'm teaching people, it's helping me to reinforce and learn even better the things that I need to know. So,
Yeah.
it's a very value add.
Yeah. What I usually say is like, the only thing you need to do to be good at something is you need to do it consistently over a period of time. Like if you do
Right,
something every day for a year or 2 years, you will become good at it. And for
right,
me, like the kind of like motivation for this is fun. Like if something is not fun or exciting, I will probably stop doing it. I will sooner or later quit and stop doing it. But if it's fun and exciting, I'm gonna keep going and I will naturally become good at it. And that's why I
right,
choose those things first. Like if something is fun and exciting, I will do it. I will just like start going for it because I know I will do it for a long time because it will keep me
right,
motivated to explore and to practice to be consistent.
right.
And I agree about the explanation. Like for me, communication is very important. I
Right.
like to be on the same page with people I talk with. And that's why I think it's very difficult to explain a complex thing to people, to another person who has no idea about it. So
Right.
for example, when we explore, we start at zero, but then we go like deeper in, and it becomes more and more complex until we like reach a level. And then I think it's time to like go back up and say, okay, how do I explain this now? How do I simplify this thing to another person, you know?
Right.
And I feel like if I can't like explain what I'm doing to another person, I don't really know it well enough. I don't
Agreed.
know how it works, you know. So I definitely agree. Like if explanation is extremely important, like if I can explain it to another person, then I understand it well enough, I think.
Agreed. Yeah, perfectly on point with me. So how do you personally, because you've got a little bit of a team that you're doing some stuff with, how do you approach collaboration with other AI creators and artists? And what have been some of your most memorable experiences so far?
Oh yeah, always. I love working in collaboration with people, just like because. So I really enjoy collaborations, and especially like collaborative storytelling for me has been the most like fulfilling experience in life. So that comes from playing a game called Dungeons and Dragons,
Yeah.
because at that point, like in that game, I will make the world, I will write out the world, I will make the plot, I will make like, you know, the general world building, you know, but
Right.
each player that comes to the table will contribute their own character, their own ideas, their own actions
Right.
and reactions to the world, you know. And I cannot write that. I cannot write that because it's theirs. I cannot, you know,
Yeah.
do that for every person, you know. I can only write my own story. And I think it would never be as interesting as it is if every person contributes in the way they are. So that to me has been like my favorite storytelling experience, like playing a game of Dungeons and Dragons, which I like to call just like collaborative storytelling because we make
Yeah.
the story together, you know. And I love that. I love that feeling. And I have been like working on a lot of like things to replicate that feeling, because for me it's like very heartwarming and content, and you know, just I don't know, it's
Right. Right.
really warm. It really is warm. Warm is like the best word to describe it, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have like an idea that I want to do, and I am inching closer to it, but it's a big idea. It's like probably the biggest idea that I have, and I want to make a collaborative storytelling experience for people with
Right.
generative AI. So basically, I want to have like initial parameters of the world, and then each day, 4 images, for example, are generated with a short story, and people
Yeah.
come and vote for those images, and they say, okay, the one image that gets the most votes. Let's say, for example, if we take Batman or in the DC universe, let's say you
Right.
have Batman, and the first day you say, okay, Batman will either go like to, I don't know, this location, like 4 different locations, and everyone who comes to the site or wherever this is hosted will vote, and the one that gets the most votes goes to the next day, and then the next day it's again 4 images, and you vote, and you keep on going, you know, and everyone is kind of included and in the choices they make, you know. And I feel that is like a very like immersive experience where everyone is connected. And this can
Right.
go like any different ways. Like it can go like individually, like if you vote for one image, you will go on that storyline, and maybe at some point you connect again to like the main plot, you know, or something like that. So I
That's
just
neat.
really like, you know, when people come together and tell a story together, you know. And
Right.
this doesn't have to be in the way of like, oh, I need to write the whole plot, I need to build the whole world. No, you don't have to. You just contribute your own character, your own actions and reactions to it.
Right.
The world can soon be built by AI fully, you know. At the moment we are still like kind of regulating it, you know,
Right.
curating it, but I think soon it can be built fully by AI, and you can just like go in and come together with a few people, or like many people. Like the more interesting world would be built, you know, and build out the world by yourself, you know, and interact with the world in whatever way you want. So those
Right.
experiences for me are like very interesting to think about, and I am kind of like thinking of how to make it happen, and I am inching closer, and I think like this is definitely gonna happen. I just like need a bit of time to like put everything in place, to like put every piece in place, you know. Aside from that, yeah, it's just like in collaborations on themes. Like I did a collaboration with Fabian a while
Okay.
back. He's also a great person. He's a great creative person. I think artist. I would say he's a proper artist as well.
Okay.
Um, and we did the theme of like robots and harmony and love and nature, something like that. It was
Right.
just like, how can everything exist together? It was nice. It was fun to like make some images, like intentional images for a theme and like a thought, an idea.
Yeah.
um, Aside from that, I am at the moment working on like an animation project, a collaboration animation project. So there, I think Pink Floyd released a while back, a few weeks
I
back,
saw that.
a
Yeah.
contest. Yeah, a contest for an animated video, and I thought, oh, great opportunity to make a project and
Right.
learn something new. You know.
Yeah, that's
So
awesome.
so 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 I said, oh, okay, yeah, I'll do this, and I will learn something new about like animating with AI. I will really push it again, you know. And
Right.
I like joined like with two other people. I reached out to Mauricio Tonon because he
Yeah.
also is a big on the forum, and another person from like the AICC Discord server. His nick or like his handle is Nostej. I'm not sure, but I think that's how it's pronounced. And we kind of started making stuff out, but like this is until November, and again, like big projects, big ideas need to like scale on. So this is kind of just like, I know, when I have time, I will put some thought into it. I will make stuff
Right.
happen, something like that. So
That's cool.
overall, I love collaborations. I love like working with people. I love making big ideas. I love building worlds. So like whenever someone is like, oh, I have like this world building idea, I'm like, oh yeah, tell me more. Let's do
Yeah.
it. You know? So absolutely. I always think like um, everyone is stronger in a team. Everyone is stronger in a community. And that's why I also think like creations are also like more beautiful and more fulfilling if they are made by more people.
Yeah, you bring so many more perspectives, and then there's ideas and ideation that show up in a totally different. Even with people of similar ilk and backgrounds, you've still got a whole different person there that's going to come up with new ideas. That's always fascinating. Uh,
Mm.
can you discuss any ethical considerations or potential negative impacts of text art or any of the AI space, and how you approach addressing these issues? As you engage in the marketplace.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. There's always, so I think like now it has died down a bit, but like maybe a
Yeah,
month or 2 months ago, it was a proper uproar about this.
it
Like
was.
everyone, people were very upset, and I felt that as well. And I feel like very understandably, like I completely understand. But my perspective, my view for this is that with every new technology and progress, there will be a disruption. Like
Yeah,
whatever we are developing and progressing and making, it will disrupt what we already have because we will implement this new thing, this new tool, this new technology into our lives. And people in general are not comfortable with change. We
agreed.
are very like we are not very explorative people. You know, it's safe in the village. Why would you go outside the village? And you and me, like, we go outside the village. We go out in the
Right,
chaos and look what's outside, you know. But like I said before, most people are in the zone of comfort because it's safe there, it's comfortable
right,
there, and I understand. So why I think this is such a big uproar and like big upset is because of the scale of it, the scale of disruption. Because like I'm talking about like the whole copyright thing. I think that's the biggest issue, like with this, like the privacy, specifically privacy. And I
yeah,
agree about it. I like my privacy as well. Like and this has been going on for years with social media. We know
agreed.
that like companies are just collecting our data, and I personally know that if I put something online, people are gonna see it. And for me, I have
Yeah,
kind of rationalized this and normalized this because, like, when I talk with you now, I'm sharing my information for free. Like, I'm telling you
right,
what I'm telling you. Like, this is yours. You can do with it whatever you want. But the difference is, I'm telling it to you in person. I can see your face. I can see your reaction. I can see how you receive this information. But
right,
if I put it online, I cannot see who receives it. I cannot see how people feel about it, how people react to
right,
it. And that's why it feels like one-sided and not comfortable for most people to do it, you know.
right,
um, and it kind of feels like, you know, they are taking something away from you, you know. But like for me, I'm like, I will share this, and whoever sees it will see it. I'm okay sharing this. This is not meant for one person or two people.
yeah,
It's meant for anyone who wants to see it, you know.
right,
But I do think living in a society when this is like normalized, that like whatever you put out that everyone sees, is maybe not the best way to go. I do think privacy has its value. I think privacy is good. I think privacy is nice, that you can be someone in private that you don't want anyone to see, because like if anyone sees what you do, I don't know, I think it isn't always great. I think it is nice to have alone time. I think it is nice to have privacy where no one is allowed, when you can just like be with your own thoughts, so you are not like always on the billboard or whatever, you know. So about the whole privacy issue, I agree. I think we've been on this topic for years with social media and everything and data collection, and we have moved forward. Like Europe has the GDPR regulations, which I think is great, but I still think this is far from ideal or far from like human centric. I think it is still very much business centered, of like how will businesses benefit from this, not how will humans benefit from this. So I usually try to think about how will humans benefit from this, whatever this is, like whatever we're doing, how will humans benefit from this. So yeah, that's kind of always the battle. And yeah, for the privacy, yeah, I agree. Like just taking the images and feeding them into the AI leaves a bad taste in my mouth as well. It's like, you know, they were not given to you, they were just posted. But for the people who posted them, I also like want to do a reality check of saying, this is the reality we live in. If you post something online, everyone has access to it, so it can be used in whatever way they want. So, you know, that's just like concerning your own privacy, how much you want to share, you know. But yeah, I think like with now the lawsuit on to Midjourney and Stable Diffusion, I think that's good. I think that's great that the conversation has started on the legal side as well, so people can like, we can set like precedents and laws for like, okay, we can do this and not this. You know, we can like maybe train your own model. I think that's the way to go. Just like train your own model on on the data set you have, on the images you have, and maybe for like the Creative Commons licenses, I don't know like which images would fall under the fair use, I guess, you know. But I definitely think like not everything should be included. Like some things should be stamped differently. And this is where I think blockchain has a great application, because I was just reading a Twitter thread yesterday on how AI creates abundance and how blockchain creates scarcity, because blockchain makes everything one of a kind. You make a stamp on it. With like NFT, it's one of a kind, you know. Only you have that. It is scarcity. It creates scarcity. But AI is like, oh, everyone can make an image. Everyone can make this, you know, art is in abundance now, you know. And I think like combining these two would find a nice balance between everything, you know, because if you put like scarcity, like your stamp on your work, and say, okay, this stamp means this is meant for a data set usage. Another stamp means, oh, this is meant for nothing, just like a view only or something like that, you know. And then I think it would start to kind of like a structure will be made of like what privacy levels, I guess. A structure for privacy levels would be made of like, okay, we can use the images with this stamp on this privacy level for a data set, for AI data set. And we can, for the rest of the stamps or like, you know, signatures basically, they are for private. They cannot be used. They are just for view only, or whatever we decide on, you know. So yeah, I do think there's a lot to talk about on this topic, and I do think it's moving forward. But this goes back to like what I was saying before, that like we just, as humans, we make stuff and we release it, and then like, you know, hell happens because it's disruptive, because we disrupt the society, we disrupt humans. So I completely understand. And now more or less the conversation on morals, ethics, and legal needs to catch up to the development. And I think this is, for me, also a constant battle in my mind of like, okay, we just keep on like running and developing, and then we're trying to catch up with our minds and like our spiritual and our like personality and morality, you know, and ethics. We try to catch up to that, you know. So yeah, like speed of progress is frightening. Like if we keep going faster, I don't think we can keep catching up. Like we humans are not that good at evolving as AI is. And we have taken like thousands of years to get to where we are now. And, you know, making a rapid change in like the next 10 years, I think we can do that as humans. I think our brains will break and more or less the society will break as well. So yeah, I do try to like, whenever I think about these and have these conversations, I try to approach them from like an empathetic and inclusive and compassionate perspective of, I understand your perspective. I understand what your scope of information is, what your scope of knowledge, and what your worldview is. I will try to understand it. I will listen to it. And how can I include that into my own perspective, which is, as I am talking now, that I think these tools are very beneficial. I think they open up a lot, especially on like self-expression side. Like, I think humans have been lacking this a lot, self-expression. I think we have mostly been developing and working. We are workers. We are not expressionists. We are not expressive people. And I think this allows a lot of people to express themselves. And I think that's a very good thing for humanity, that people are able to put their feelings out into whatever form they like. In this example, images, with text to image, or written word, or whatever, you know. I think that's extremely beneficial. So it's more or less a question of how can we, again, build that bridge, like the education bridge, that includes as many people as possible and is as fair and empathetic as possible. That's kind of my perspective and worldview on this. And
I like it.
How
it's
I
very thorough.
Kind of contribute. I think I appreciate that. And how I kind of approach to this is, or like my role in this is, I do the education and the conversation and the like building the bridge on social media. So like, I will start topics on whatever I feel is important to discuss, or that I want to have different perspectives on, like, how other people think about this, you know. And oftentimes, like, people are, I mean, there will always be opposing perspectives and worldviews, you know. There will be conflict, and I'm like, that's okay. Like, just let it out. Like, share your perspective, and other people share your perspective. And like, if you know, like, pull everything together and analyze and like put the same value to all of these perspectives, you will find something in the end that might be a compromise that might be beneficial for everyone, you know. So more or less, I think first step is awareness and communication. I think that's where I am very focused on. And the second step is education and information sharing, which also I'm focused on. I am slightly focused on developing an innovation of just like how we can build these tools. And at that point, it's also great that, you know, you contribute this perspective of human-centric behavior into the innovation. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
Okay. Great answer. I really like the depth that you took with that, because that's very good.
I appreciate it.
You know, it's a lot of times people can come to one side or the other and they're just become dogmatic, you know, like, it's here, let's just make a free-for-all. And that's not necessarily the best approach. And neither is the, you know, we don't like how they create it, so we should shut it all down. I think there's got to be a balance in figuring out how this all plays, and then figuring out the rules, you know, that's going to govern us as we move forward. So I like your answer. It's pretty well thought. Okay, so as a last question, this kind of wraps us up, because I've already taken over almost an hour and a half of your time. But in the book, this has been good. In the book, you're being a part of for our AI. Let me try that one again.
Oh man. I'm so freaking excited.
That you're going to be a part of for AI Explore Collaborations, Book 1. I have you down covering the subject of visual storytelling, concepting, rapid iteration, mood boards, storyboards, with a lesson title of AI Tools for Visual Communication. Okay, so without reteaching the lesson, what is the biggest takeaway that you hope people are going to have in regards to the lesson that you're sharing?
Okay, good question. I think, I talked a lot about this in this conversation already. What I teach in that lesson is how you can use the tools we currently have for the creative process, in storytelling, in visual storytelling. So like in animation, in films, in even design, in like commercial ad, whatever you're doing, whatever you use your visuals, how you can support that process with AI tools. And like I said in this conversation already, it's the speed, efficiency, and scale of how much you can make. And it goes through everything that I have said now in just a bit more detail, I guess. That is the visual storytelling part of like going through all of these layers, like steps that I have outlined before, like concepting, brainstorming, mood boards, storyboards, how basically I use the AI to support that process. And the second part is for visual communication is like content. So like I make a lot of content as well. Like I've been making a lot of content over the years, and
Right.
It's more about how can AI actually help make content. And in that part of the lesson, I explain how I make like my styles, like my Midjourney style templates. So basically, you can create branded content with text to image tools. So how can you
Right.
make a template with your brand, whatever it is, like values, like colors and style and design shapes and whatever you have, and
Right.
make it into a template, and then use that to make consistent content. So you can make something every day and learn something new and make a post about something and join the conversation and
Right.
whatever you want to do with it, something like that.
Awesome. I'm actually literally had your page open. That was the one I was laying out today in the book. So this is very
Nice.
perfectly timed.
Nice.
So, Nejcs, this has been fantastic. I've really enjoyed the conversation. We should definitely do this
Likewise.
again without even having a podcast on the backside of it. I just enjoy engaging with you and hearing your perspective on stuff. So it's good stuff.
Yeah, I completely agree. All right. My name is Nejcs Susec. I am an AI creator, storyteller, and teacher. And this has been AI Collective with Brian Sykes. Is that it? Did I nail it?
Hey, everybody. Just want to give a shout out to one of the AICC founding members, Brian Sykes. If you're part of the group, you see us post daily. You've seen us for months share tutorials, trainings. Brian has been the driver behind that, where him and I had connected a while ago, and he said he wanted to share. And I saw someone who came into the community and gave for, a stretch of 45 days, but it's been since then. That commitment to teaching and sharing and commenting goes way beyond like any of the stuff that we do and on these social channels. Brian is the real deal. AI Explore Volume 1 was phenomenal. It captured a sense of process, but simplified it in such a way to where everybody could do it. I could do it. And then he went ahead and he's got AI Collaborate out right now. And I just want to give a shout out to all of the creators who contributed and shared a wealth of information. All of this is a part of that collective consciousness, that collectiveness, that community that we have. And it is about being of service, and it is about giving. And I want to thank you, Brian. I want to thank you for giving to us on a daily basis of your time, of your passion, of your thinking. We appreciate you. Be good.